Hello everyone, this is Andy again, just bringing you more information about the new design system at KDE. Past few weeks, we have been working a lot, and that's just an understatement. But we have a lot of stuff that we have been able to complete. Even though you see a lot of comments here, this is pretty much done. This is our 24 pixel collection for icons, as you can see, and I have actually mentioned this before. Along the way, actually, we made a few more icons, like this wine icon. Then we made a few more weather icons, as you can see here. And once you start doing one thing, then you can do a few more. So in our case, we dedicated a few extra side projects to making a little bit of extra icons that we might need in the future. And as I explained in a previous post, we may have to evaluate the amount of icons that we have in our current 24 pixel collection versus the 16 pixel collection, and then see what differences we have between those two folders. Because one thing that I noticed in our system previously is that there are many instances in which the system is showing the user a 16 pixel icon when the rest of them are 24. And in the current case they would be 22 pixel icons. So it shows a 22 pixel icon and an upscale 16 pixel icon because there was no icon made for the 22 pixel collection for that representation that they want to make in the application. And the same goes for 16. If you notice, when you compare the amount of icons that we have in 24 versus 16, it's a little bit less. That means there are more 24 pixel icons than there are 16, so there is not a one-to-one comparison between them. And that may or may not be a problem, in the sense that if you think about it, in our current design process, we made 24 pixel icons to have a 2 pixel thick line. That was our base. And when we worked on 16 pixel icons, they are 1 pixel thick. So if in a UI you have a combination of, let's say in a menu, you have a combination of 24 and 16 pixel icons, it might actually be kind of obvious what happened there. And because of the thickness that is different between them. Now, there may be things that the system can do to sort of ameliorate that part of the visual aspect, but it seems to me that it makes the most sense to have a good one-to-one comparison between 16 pixel icons and 24. That will probably solve a few issues, and it will actually make it easier for our developers to not be hunting for random icons that may just fit the bill but don't necessarily look cohesive when you put them all together. So anyway, that's an idea that's out there, and that we're not currently working on this, but we will. And but we have to, of course, plan this out and understand which are things that we need versus things that we don't need. So as you can see here, I have two panes, and these are the 16 pixel icons as they appear today in Breeze. And you can see here that this is the previous version, right? Very squarey, very sharp as well. And it actually, I noticed in some instances it might actually not be all that centered. That's just some of the limitations that the designs bring when you make things. But what was our intention here with the 16? Now that we have built 24 pixel icons, we redesigned a lot of them, if not all of them. And now these icons don't match the visuals of the 16. And so now we're correlating the looks of the 24 to the looks of the 16. And so you can see right here, and I'm just gonna scan through this very quickly. Hopefully you can make out what is being shown. but this is our 16 pixel version of the previous one. And as you can see, we tried our best to like make sure that the shapes stay consistent, aligned, balanced. They retain the shapes that we selected for this collection, and as you can see, it's turned out really good. However, I have to caution, I have to be clear on this, that even though I'm zooming in these things and they look great, right, and they look sharp, that may not be the case in all screens, and it may not be quite as easy to understand when a 16 pixel icon is presented at its accurate resolution in a 5K in a 5K screen, right? Because it would be so small. And so the idea is that that these representations stay consistent, but not necessarily they're made for you as a user to focus on them as the primary object of your interaction with the UI. And so in those cases, you would rely on a combination of an icon plus a label so that you can more easily understand what's happening on the screen. But it's we did our best here, and even though so here's one thing tricky about 16 pixel icons, that they do not necessarily have perfect alignment. So you have to sometimes sacrifice centering for the sake of keeping things balanced, with keeping the shape within the track of the pixel. And that may lead to some blurriness, but I tried my best to just not have that. So they should look okay for most instances, and I will say that maybe most screens these days should be able to render these in a sharp way. They may not, like I said, they may not all be pixel perfect, but they are balanced and they're centered. And those are valuable things also when making out an icon on the screen. Now, with that said, I don't want to give the impression that these icons are perfect. These icons need a lot of work, and these icons may need more simplification than they do today. And in those cases, we rely on feedback from you to tell us, hey, I really don't get this icon, or there is something here that should be changed. It is not as easy as to, copy one shape, paste it on the other side, and, it will look just fine. You have to make different kinds of commitments to the shapes, and sometimes even you may have to just design something completely different in a 16 pixel version so that it fits properly within the proportions of the icon. Now, just like in our 24 pixel icon work, we also used a 16 pixel grid for these icons, and let me see if I can find it here. So you see how the proportions are different? You see how, for example, the square edge of the icon goes all the way out to the edge. The center circle and the crossing lines, the circle particularly goes all the way to the edge. Now, we discussed this in the design team, and this is usually the most accepted way that you would design icons. You don't necessarily have to look for space to make the icon inside a certain kind of margin, because under 16 pixels, every pixel that you have to design your icon with is valuable. And so, with that said, in current Breeze icons, 16 pixel icons are generally saving 2 pixels off the screen, of the grid. And so they design, for example, if you notice this little inner square here, that's where most of the current Breeze icons live, right here, leaving 1 or 2 pixels as a margin. And that has changed over time. it may have been something that was a good practice back in the day, but it's no longer a good practice. And so one thing that you will notice once we publish these icons here is that many of them touch the edges, such as this one. And overall, this should mean that your 16 pixel icon will look a little bit bigger than it used to under Breeze, which is good. It will help you make out the shapes a little bit better, and it also frees the designers a little bit to design with proper proportions for icons, because it's not just about putting shapes inside a square. It's about balancing the shapes and what seems to jump out at you as a visual interaction with the computer. And so you can't just make the assumption that just because it's centered, the graphical shape is actually good. And so now those considerations went into this work, and so now we finished the first pass on 16 pixel icons for actions. And I'm super happy about this because it was a lot of work. But if you notice, one thing is that the 16 pixel icon actions is the most numerous of all of them, which means we should be able to finish the other ones fairly or just about the same time as 16 pixel icons, about for all the rest of the icons that are left in this collection. I already started doing this work. In fact, I updated the applets to match again to the 24 pixel collection, and I'm doing the same for applications, for the applications folder. So the work will continue. Some of these will present a little bit of a challenge. If you notice the MIME types right here, don't mind that some of them are transparent. It's just the way that Figma imports SVGs from Inkscape. But if you notice, in the current system, we changed these colored icons to have labels, and to say, for example, that this is a PDF, that is an SVG file, that the other one is a TIFF, right? So we used letters. But the problem becomes when at 16 pixels, maybe having a combination of letters plus shapes is probably not the best idea. So I'm still ideating around what seems to be the best way to represent file extensions in icon mode for the collection. I have bounced around between just leaving the letters and no backgrounds. I've bounced around making simplified versions of background cutouts, and not relying so much on lettering. That way it might be easier to make out, but we'll see. I think I'm landing somewhere in the middle there, but hopefully it doesn't become too time consuming, and we can deliver these icons soon. There is also an idea that I discussed with the rest of the team briefly last week, where we want to put together a sprint. We haven't made any changes on this yet, but we probably will start. Have a sprint where we put together all of this work made for the design system, including these icons and our colors and our typography that we're proposing to make, and then make that available in some kind of form for developers to start using. We don't know what that looks like today. We also have to make changes so that our 24 pixel icons are supported in the system. As I've mentioned in previous videos, these icons are you can render a 24 pixel icon in KDE today, but there's one framework that does not have the ability to resize its icon container to 24, and we have to make that change as well. And we need to know what implications that brings to the system. So there are a couple of topics there that are major, that are important, and that we should probably work with in a sprint together with a few of our good developers. And additionally, a few people from PenPot have joined our chat and in our Plasma Next chat, and we have been going back and forth between some of the things that we need in order to execute a design system under PenPot, which are not available today. They're working very hard on a few integrations, token systems, new and improved versions of the renderer in PenPot. So we are very excited to see that work come to light. It will take a few months before we see most of what we need for us to transport our design system to their side. But once that happens, we're happy to do it, and hopefully this benefits a few people. And my hope personally is that in the future, with this type of work, we can attract more designers to come to KDE, people that probably already know how to use design systems, what it means to develop a UI that is pre-made or out of components, and we can have more fruitful discussions when it comes to design. I think that KDE definitely needs a revamp on this aspect. We have so many options in our system that are powerful options that no other system can provide, or not other systems thinks they are important, and yet we provide them. But there is a difference between having a lot of options and then your users having the ability to find those options and make good use of them. That's when the user experience comes into place. And it starts also by building a system that is easy to understand for designers and developers, and that brings them all together. So once we make those changes, I think we're going to be in much better shape to execute basically any kind of redesign that we want to, because we also have our Union theme engine development happening right now. And once that happens and is delivered to released to the rest of the people, the developer community here, I think it would be much easier to develop for us. So a couple of very good solutions coming to KDE here soon. Hopefully, if you're interested in this kind of work and you're a designer, you're welcome to join us. Message me directly on this channel, and I'll be happy to just accommodate for you and just find a place where you could help us out. The more people, the better. We can go faster if we have more designers. We can go much faster if we have many designers. And we not only need help with the design system, we also need help in a lot of areas in the system that are currently happening, where many of our contributors propose changes to the system and they need the guidance of user experience people or people who work with graphics. So not only is the work available here, but also in the system itself. So I encourage you, if you're interested in some of this work, just like and subscribe and send me a message. Thank you.